Latin legal terms.
Ab initio. From the beginning.
This term indicates that something is considered from the start, often used to describe contracts or agreements that are void from the outset. For example, the contract was deemed void ab initio due to fraudulent misrepresentation.
Ad hoc. For this purpose.
This term refers to something created or done for a specific purpose, often used in the context of committees or legal teams assembled for a particular case or issue. For example, an ad hoc committee was formed to address the emergency.
Amicus curiae. Friend of the court.
This term refers to a person or organization that is not a party to a case but offers information or expertise relevant to the case to assist the court in its decision-making. For example, the environmental group submitted an amicus curiae brief to support the plaintiff's case.
Bona fide. In good faith.
This term describes actions or transactions conducted honestly and without intent to deceive. For example, the parties engaged in bona fide negotiations to reach a settlement.
De facto. In fact.
This term refers to a state of affairs that exists in reality, even if not legally recognized. For example, he was the de facto leader of the community despite not holding an official title.
De jure. By law.
This term refers to a state of affairs that is in accordance with law, even if not necessarily in practice. For example, she is the de jure owner of the property according to the land registry.
Ex parte. From one party.
This term refers to legal proceedings or motions brought by or involving one party without the presence or participation of the opposing party. For example, an ex parte hearing was held to address the urgent matter.
Habeas corpus. You shall have the body.
This term refers to a legal writ requiring a person under arrest to be brought before a judge or into court, ensuring that the person's detention is lawful. For example, the prisoner filed a habeas corpus petition challenging his detention.
Ipso facto. By the fact itself.
This term indicates that something is the case by the very nature of the situation. For example, if the contract is breached, it is ipso facto void.
Menus rea. Guilty mind.
This term refers to the mental state or intent of a person to commit a crime, which is a necessary element to establish criminal liability. For example, to prove murder, the prosecution must establish the defendant's mens rea.
Nolo contendere. I do not wish to contend.
This term refers to a legal plea by which a defendant in a criminal case accepts conviction as though a guilty plea had been entered but does not admit guilt. For example, the defendant entered a plea of nolo contendere to the charges.
Per curiam. By the court.
This refers to a decision delivered by a court, or a panel of judges, collectively and unanimously, often without identifying any specific judge as the author. For example, the ruling was issued per curiam and did not name any individual judge.
Pro bono. For the public good.
This refers to legal work undertaken voluntarily and without payment, typically for charitable or public interest purposes. For example, the attorney provided pro bono legal services to the non-profit organization.
Rep ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself.
This refers to a doctrine in tort law that infers negligence from the very nature of an accident or injury, in the absence of direct evidence on how any defendant behaved. For example, in the case of the surgical instrument left inside the patient, res ipsa loquitur applied.
Stare decisis. To stand by things decided.
This refers to the legal principle of determining points in litigation according to precedent, ensuring consistency and stability in the law. For example, the court followed the doctrine of stare decisis and upheld a previous ruling.
Subpoena. Under penalty.
This term refers to a writ ordering a person to attend a court or produce documents. For example, she received a subpoena to testify in court next week.
Ultra vires. Beyond the powers.
This term refers to actions taken by a government body, corporation, or other entity that are beyond the scope of the authority granted to them by law or corporate charter. For example, the contract was declared ultra vires and void because it exceeded the company's authority.
Vox populi. Voice of the people.
This term refers to the opinions or beliefs of the majority, often used in the context of public opinion and political matters. For example, the decision was influenced by vox populi, reflecting the will of the citizens.
Caveat emptor. Let the buyer beware.
This term refers to a principle in commerce that places the onus on the buyer to perform due diligence before making a purchase, implying that the buyer assumes the risk for the quality and condition of goods purchased. For example, under the doctrine of caveat emptor, the buyer must inspect the property before purchase.
In camera. In the chamber.
This term refers to legal proceedings conducted privately in a judge's chambers or without the presence of the public, often used to protect sensitive information or in cases involving minors. For example, the judge decided to review the sensitive documents in camera to protect the parties' privacy.